Hi everybody, welcome to the lecture on formatting. In this class and many other of your classes, you are going to be asked to format papers using the APA style of formatting, the American Psychological Association style of formatting. Now, some general guidelines for APA formatting. Typically we want 12-point font, we want 1-inch margins all the way around, double space. With the type of font, it's not something that there are very strict rules on. It's said that you should be using any kind of readable font. I've listed a couple here: Arial, Times New Roman. There are certain defaults that will be in your Word document, I would imagine. Now, just because it says any readable font doesn't mean that you still want to write in some weird schoolboy or ice caps font, even though you can kind of read those. We want to keep it professional, so typically one of these 2-3 types of font, some of the more common types of font, are ones that you want to use. Now, there are 3 main sections to any paper. You should have these sections when submitting your paper. If there aren't typically guidelines, if you're not given guidelines, then you want to default to the 3 sections of title page, body, and references page. Some teachers are going to ask for abstracts. Some teachers are not. You just kind of want to feel out your teacher. But if no strict guidelines are given, make sure that you're just including the title, body, and references page. So the 3 sections are important. And so when organizing your paper, you want to make sure that you are organizing them in this particular order: title page first, abstract if the abstract is required, a body where you're going to have the meat in your actual essay, and then lastly a references page. And it's important when creating all of these that they have their own set pages. So you don't want to just start your title page and then start right into the body and start right into the references. You want to make sure to separate them all with page breaks. So when we look at the title page, there are certain fundamental parts to a title page. With APA formatting, you're going to have a running head and a page number in the header portion of the page. Now the running head or the header is going to say running head with capital R and then colon, and then your title will be the short title, no more than 50 characters, all in caps. That will be left aligned on the page, and then your page number will be right aligned. The 3 parts of the title page, the 3 required parts, are going to be the title of your paper in upper and lower case. We also see your name and the publishing institution, so the institution that you're at or that you're writing for. Again, just like the organization of the paper, these 3 sections are the necessary pieces. Your teacher may ask for other elements, namely the date, the class, the teacher's name perhaps. But if these things are not specified, then you just want to revert back to just title, name, publishing institution, or institution that you were submitting to. So here's an example of a title page. I know it's small, it's not really meant for you to read necessarily, but just for you to see an overview of what the page is actually going to look at. Notice the running head on the top. You see the words running head colon, and then the title of the page is in all caps, page number on the right, and then here you have the title of the paper that's center aligned. Typically, you want to space down about 1.9 to 2.1 inches down the page. There's no real set spacing here. You roughly want to have the title, name, and publishing institution about midway to middle top portion of the paper. You don't want it fully at the top, you don't want it fully at the bottom. This is a good reference to go off of, just looking at this, trying to get your paper to match in a similar fashion. Now, if you are writing an abstract, there are a couple things that your abstract must include. It's also going to include the header, and this is going to be now the same for the abstract, the body, and the references. You will have the header. It will no longer say running head. It'll just have the title in caps, short title no more than 50 characters long, and the page number. So it's going to be very similar to the header that you see on the title page, except it won't have the word running head preceding the title. Once you've done that, at the top of the page, you are going to start center aligned with the title abstract. Now, abstract is not going to be bolded. It's not going to be underlined. It's going to be the same size and font as everything else. That's an important aspect when it comes to APA formatting. Everything is 12-point font. There are no exceptions to this rule. You want to keep everything 12-point font, double-spaced, 1-inch margins all the way around. There are certain exceptions for some of these things. For instance, the double space, if you're doing in-block quotes, you can lessen the font, but you don't have to. And so typically you just want to make sure that everything's always 12-point font, always double-spaced all the time. It's the easiest and safest way to write. With the title, the word abstract, also it's not going to be italicized. Again, no kind of formatting or anything like that, no quotation marks, just the word abstract, capital A, in the title, center aligned. From there on, you are going to left align your body. There's going to be no indentation, and typically an abstract will be about 150 to 250 words. But again, this is not something that every teacher is going to ask you for. It's typically an optional aspect. You'll see abstracts when authors are actually publishing works, but when you're typically turning in something for class, it's not really going to require an abstract. Here we see that kind of overview again of how an abstract should look. Again, we have the header, the title in all caps. There is no word running head, page number on the right align. Abstract, center aligned, same font, same spacing as everything else in the document. There are no differences. And then with the body aspect of the abstract, there is no indentation. You just begin writing, run 150, 250 words, kind of giving a brief synopsis of the paper. Next is the body portion. Now the body portion, just like the abstract, is going to include a header that has the title in all caps, page number on the right align, and then here you will have the title of your page, the title of your paper rather, that is center aligned, just like the abstract was. There is going to be no bold, no quotation marks or italics or anything like that. Again, 12-point font, double spaced down to where the paragraph actually starts. However, the difference now is that when we start writing our paper, we will be using first line indentation. So you'll indent roughly 1/2 inch, and then you will begin writing your paragraphs and have that first line indentation throughout the rest of your essay. Now, one aspect with APA formatting is that you are also required to use in-text citations. In-text citations are citations within the text, so that the reader knows when a sentence is complete or when a statement is complete where that material was taken from. And we typically write in-text citations by opening the parentheses, putting the author's last name, comma, the date of publication, and then closing off the parentheses and adding any punctuation after the closed off parentheses. If you were taking a direct quote, for instance, you will not only include the author and the date of publication, but you will also include the page number. Now, one of the differences too with the body as opposed to something like an abstract is that you may sometimes use subheadings for different sections of your paper. This is not required. It's not something that's necessarily common, but if you are going to use subheadings, they are going to be center aligned and bold. Still 12-point font, still double spaced, but when you get to that next subheading section, you will bold that section title. So here is an example, an overview of that kind of body. You'll see again the header, left aligned, all caps, page number on the right align, and then you have the center aligned title, Effects of Pollution in Arctic Environmental Study. After the title, double space, and then you will indent 1/2 inch and begin writing your paragraph. If you are going to use subheadings, which again is not something that you necessarily need to use, but if you are going to use them, you will space off of the paragraph, center align, bold the subheading, and then double space and go back to first line indent and write your paragraphs just how you had the first and second or however many paragraphs that you have. Lastly is the references section. Now, the references section will also have header in the top left, title, 50 characters or less, all capitals, and then right aligned is the page number. But here, instead of, like in your abstract, instead of writing the word abstract, you will write the word references. Don't write bibliography. You don't want to write works cited. APA formatting tells you to write the word references. Again, like the abstract, there's no bold, no italics, underlining, formatting of any kind. It's double spaced, 12-point font. And the only difference now with the references is that you're going to have hanging indentation rather than first line indentation. So instead of the first line being indented 1/2 inch, the first line is the longest line of the reference, and then everything else under that first line is indented 1/2 inch. So it looks like that top part is kind of hanging over the edge of the rest of the reference. Now, there are very specific ways in which you reference material. There's not really enough time to go over all the different types of referencing. I've included a link here to the OWL English Purdue website that will help you navigate what to include in types of referencing, whether it's referencing from a book, a journal, something edited, translated, something that was a video. All the different types of ways in which we can reference can be found in that link. And we want to make sure that we are organizing these references by alphabetical order. And with these references, it's typically going to be last name first, followed by first initial. So it will be the alphabetical order of the author or first author's last name. Now, it's also important to note that anything that is referenced on the references page should also have a corresponding in-text citation. If it has an in-text citation, there should be a corresponding reference. So you can't just add references because you read something and then think that that may have helped you in developing an idea, so you put it in your references. It's either used to summarize or quote or support work, in which it's going to have an in-text citation, or it's not, in which case it's not going to fall within the references pages either. So make sure that your in-text citations correspond to your references and your references correspond to the in-text citations. Lastly, just some general APA mechanics. Typically when we're writing papers, we want to make sure that we're writing formally. What that means is that you don't want to use slang or abbreviations. Don't use contractions. Instead of writing don't, write do not. Instead of writing shouldn't, write should not. This is more formal and also is going to add to your word count. So it's going to be beneficial in that regard as well. We want to make sure we're also using unbiased language, avoiding stereotypes, no cursing or, again, slang of any kind. We want to be professional. This is academic writing. We don't want to typically write the way we might converse in public or with our friends and family. We want to be very professional, very clear. because remember, the goal of writing is to express your position clearly, get your reader to believe your particular thesis statement, and so we want to be as clear as humanly possible. Another instance of just kind of general mechanics, we want to avoid dangling modifiers. So don't just assume aspects of your writing. Make sure you are writing full, complete sentences. The example I have here, having finished the presentation, there was a sigh of relief. Well, who was sighing of relief? Why was this sigh of relief occurring based on finishing? Was there some sort of um, relief that the presentation was over? Who's doing the action, right? Don't just assume your reader knows these things. It's important for you to be very clear and specific about subjects and about verbs and using the proper language and clear vocabulary to get these expressions across. Also, make sure that you are using parallel structure. If you are writing in the plural, continue writing in the plural. If you are writing singular, continue writing in singular. If you are writing in first person, make sure you continue writing in first person. Don't switch around tenses or first person to second person to third person. Don't switch around plurals with singulars. You want to make sure that you are staying consistent. This is a big part of being clear, of expressing thoughts clearly and accurately. And so we want to make sure that all of that stuff lines up when we're writing.